So it's about 7:30, and the sun is actually still up. Um, I guess that's the flip side of it not coming up until 8 means it's up and almost 8. Well, today is the spring solstice, so we now have more light than we do dark, or that's the flip over. Um, or at least it is at this part of the world. Anyways, um, I didn't quite get done last night. Got almost done. Um, I will get done today. It was the question of waiting for a couple of larger cut up files to get through. In fact, I should basically be done just about everything within about an hour. Then I'll get something to eat. I need to clean myself a little bit today. It's been too long, and I don't know where I was going there, but that's what I'm doing. And I should get back to some archiving soon. So, in the end, I guess I lost a week to that, but I did a lot of reacting this week as well. There was the primaries, so I mean, it wasn't blown completely. I guess what I'm saying is, and I've been through this before, is that it would have taken me a week to do this regardless. There was still a lot of processing to do. It was a question of what I did in between, and it was a little less archiving and a little more ranting. But that'll switch over um, probably before midnight. They've got anonymous running up the whole thing. It's they're really coming out early. This is going to be a long campaign of like all of the psyops, all the CIA prints, everything coming out to try to convince you to vote for Hillary because she's better than fascism. That should be her campaign slogan, right? And get ready for it because this is what the election is going to be. This is what we're about to be subjected to. The first truly Orwellian election cycle. And it should be her campaign slogan. Vote Hillary. She's better than fascism. But you'd have to asterisk it, right? Because you'd have to note that Hillary supports the TPP, global military intervention, including carpet bombing, mass deportations, strong restrictions on free speech, all these sorts of things that kind of sound a lot like fascism, right? And so this is the drama, this is the theater, right? Is that they're working it all up, they're sending everything they can, okay? You should have known from the start that when you saw Trump run for office that he was, running as some kind of he was running some kind of script, right? And this is the script that he's running. He's playing the bad guy, and now we have to stand up and fight against the bad guy to vote for Hillary, who it just turns out is actually a fascist. Okay? I'm not gonna do this over and over again. I'm just gonna point this out once. Well, I'll probably point it. I've already pointed it out a few times, and I'll point it out a few more times probably as well. Okay? The fascist. Trump is an idiot. Okay? But to suggest that he's a fascist would suggest that he has an ideology, and that would be wrong. The only fascist that's running in this election is Hillary Clinton. Let's get that through our heads, and let's not be tricked. Okay? I'm not saying you should vote for Trump. I'm saying you shouldn't vote at all. So I just listened to a discussion about, decentralizing the police force, taking it out of the hands of the government, and putting it into the hands of a community police force. So that's better. And then they conclude with, one of the best things about this community policing is that property values in the neighborhood have gone up. And you just want to bang your head against the wall, right? These ANCAPs that just don't get it, right? So maybe I should take the time to explain what the actual anarchist position on policing is. Okay. You'll hear all this ANCAP nonsense, and you probably will hear many of them talk about property values, because for them it's more about bureaucracy, right? To them, cops are just annoying red tape bureaucracy, and if you cut it, then you know, more free enterprise or some nonsense, right? Um, the proper actually, and something else that the guy said was he said they were going through a case study or an example. It wasn't a case study; it was just an example of where the cops went on strike. You know, and he says it also demonstrates that if there weren't cops around, then people, you know, wouldn't go around robbing and stealing things. Yeah, I'm an anarchist. I propose or I support an ordered system of collectively owned property. Um, I believe in the total abolition of the police, not the replacement of it with community policing, because what a community police does is the same thing as what a government police does, is they protect property. If you move it from government to, you're not solving anything. All you're doing is taking a level of accountability out, right? So you might have a government might have a constitution that says you can't discriminate against black people. A community organization would not have that clause, and then you could have racist vigilante groups, right? Um, so that's a step in the wrong direction, right? I support the total abolition of the police. And I can tell you with great certainty that if there were no police, I would be out there, maybe not murdering people, that's not my thing, but I'd be out there stealing things for sure. So let's take a step back. I tell you, if there were no police, I'd be out there stealing things. What is stealing? When you steal something from somebody, what you're doing is you're not respecting their rights over that property. Okay? As an anarchist, what I would do is I would flip that question around. I would not say that I do not have the right to somebody else's property and going after it is stealing. Now, we have to separate between different kinds of property, right? That doesn't mean I can walk into your house and steal your toothbrush, right? Or I should avoid using the word steal because I'm changing the meaning of the word steal. So, and I have every right to do that. Um, it's entirely relative, and that's the whole point. Is that it's entirely relative, because it depends on your concept of property. And if we're changing the concept of property, then we're by definition changing the concept of steal. Right? But that doesn't mean that I can walk into your house and take your toothbrush, or I can walk into your driveway and take your car. Okay. Um, what it does mean, I would argue, is that I could walk into a store and take something out of it. Okay. And the reason being that I'm flipping the question around. I'm saying, what gives you the right to tell me that I can't eat this? Okay. What gives you the right to tell me that I cannot take this good? Right. The answer is a legal system. Is the state? Okay. And as an anarchist, a real anarchist, I understand that that's what the state is. The state is a system to uphold property rights. Okay, that ensures that we have this operating system, right? And so you get these ANCAPs and they say we don't need the state to uphold it. People would do it anyways. I can tell you that I certainly wouldn't. And I think that the premise that people would continue to live in the system that the state created without the state there to enforce it relies on some pretty hefty assumptions about the distribution of property and about the culture in the region, right? So and this actually kind of it ties back into the whole, you know, this whole development of history concept of economics, right? So if you acknowledge that capitalism, liberalism, is the ideal way to maximize freedom in an agrarian society, then we can say, okay, well, if you took, this like farming community out in, Nebraska or something, that's isolated from everything else, then okay, maybe that might work there. But in downtown Los Angeles, where 85% of the people, rent
live paycheck to paycheck or worse? Are you going to tell me that system is going to uphold itself? It can't, because it's created this amount of poverty, right? And what the laws exist is to keep that poverty in place, um, or at the very least to act as a buffer between those that have property and those that don't. Okay, so when I say I want to abolish policing, what that means is that I want to abolish property. If we abolish property, then we no longer need police, because we no longer need anybody to say that if you take this, then we're going to put you in a cage, right? Um, and it does. I mean, most crimes are property crimes or property-related crimes. Um, the idea is that it would take a good, you know, a very. I don't want to put a number on it because I'm just making it up, but it would take a very large amount of crime off the books. And if you acknowledge that abolishing property also abolishes poverty, um, by ensuring that everybody has access to goods, then it gets rid of a lot of these other kinds of um, concerns as well. Okay, what's left is reduced largely to mental illness, and you deal with mental illness as a health problem, not as a policing issue, right? So you are going to have schizophrenic people, and they're going to do whacked things. You're going to have people that are born with fetal alcohol syndrome, and you're going to have to be careful with them. Um, how you deal with that is, I mean, it's complicated. I would support kind of um, a system of just incarceration. Um, the reality is that there are going to be people that are born with conditions that make them unsafe to live in society. Um, you know, but that's a very different situation than criminality. Okay, so again, the proper anarchist position is that crime is a consequence of property rights. The way to abolish crime is to abolish property rights. And these ANCAPs who think that the police are just another type of bureaucracy are really missing the plot on that. We can have long conversations about this. Feel free to start a discussion in the comment thread if you'd like. But I think I've got the point across here. So let's sum up what I think about the results. So we have this media narrative here. Clinton managed to squeak through a tough win after tough win by dominating the older black vote. And here's my smartass response. Yeah. They're so old that they're dead. And of course the media says, what? Let's continue with my smartass response. Hillary Clinton has won the primary by dominating the dead black people vote. Let's cut to Sanders here. He's having a press conference. The media chimes in. Sir, what could you have done to better appeal to the African American zombie vote? Sanders. Well, I still got a foot in the grave, I guess. But I don't think anybody was expecting the zombie apocalypse to be overly black. And I wish I could deliver that in a better, deadpan Brooklyn Jew voice. That would be ideal. But anyways, that's what we got going on here. Deal with it. Sorry. It's clear as day. Okay? Deal with it. So the CEO for Carl's claims that if the minimum wage goes up, then he'll have to replace all of his workers with robots. Which is, probably going to happen anyways. But what percentage of his customers does this guy suppose works in the service industry? So he's saying he wants to, replace all his workers with robots. Well, if he does that, and his competitors do that, and the grocery store across the street does that, in fact, if the whole mall does that, then who is it that he expects will buy his product? The robots aren't going to buy his product. And so this is unsustainable. Okay? That's not so bad, though.
I'm not a capitalist. It would not upset me if capital did things that would collapse itself. And so I'd be foolish to argue for the tremendous foresight of capital. I mean, just because it's stupid from their own perspective doesn't mean they won't do it. That's how we got into this mess in the first place. Let's be real about the choices. Okay, we can maintain the status quo where people do shitty work for shitty wages while the bosses get rich. That's how things are, right? So they say, don't raise the minimum wage, or we might have to change the way that things are. That's a scary threat, right? Or we can let the CEOs destroy the economy through automation, then figure out how to deal with 40% unemployment caused by overwhelming automation. And that's what's going to happen, right? I have an idea about that too. Maybe we could take ownership of the machines in common. Wow. And instead of some boss owning the productive capabilities and handing us out a wage, we could just set the machines in motion and enjoy being unemployed. I know, that's crazy. What do you think, that it's a fifth of the way through the 21st century or something? We'll have to wait until the future, after the year 2000, for something like that. Things Hillary actually said. If there is a way to structure some kind of constitutional restrictions to take into account the life of the mother and her health, then I am open to that. But I have yet to see the Republicans willing to actually do that. And that would be an area where, if they included health, you could see constitutional action. Things Hillary actually said. See, I'll link this Slate article here about, no, I won't link the Slate article because it's, you can look this up in Wikipedia. It's the 1960 Nixon versus JFK election. It's widely understood that JFK did at least some cheating. The part that's disputed is whether the cheating was enough to swing the election, or whether it wasn't. The big spot that everyone agrees that the ballot box stuffing occurred was in Cook County. Now let's take a look at the Illinois results here. Okay. We have Clinton, 51%, Sanders, 49%. It's about a 35,000 vote difference overall, the whole state. Now we look just at Cook County. 54% for Clinton and 46% for Sanders. A difference of about 93,000 votes. And if you look at the rest of Illinois, Sanders actually has 53%, whereas Clinton has 47%. A difference of about 58,000 votes. Okay? So she won Cook County by about 93,000 votes, but lost the rest of the state by about 58,000 votes, thereby winning the state overall by 35,000 votes. But Cook County is notorious as a state that is stolen. As a county that is rigged. Okay, it's the whole big Daley machine, the whole thing, right? This is lore. If you're into politics, you know all this stuff. The corrupt Daley machine, and how that interacts with, this is the machine that Rahm Emanuel is currently in charge of, the former chief of staff for Barack Obama, who was a senator from Chicago, very much tied in with the Daley machine, and Hillary herself is from Chicago as well. So I mean, this all ties together. If you're looking at these results and you don't see that it's obvious, I don't know what to tell you. And you can see the same thing if you go to Miami, Um, I don't think she might have stuffed some ballots in Cleveland or something, but I don't think it changed the overall result much. But Illinois specifically, I think that he probably did win Illinois, and he probably did win Illinois by see, that's the rest of Illinois. I'm only looking at one county. Um, there were no other counties that were involved with the big blue machine, right? So, I can read the polls. I can read them right, but ultimately, you have to take these sorts of things into consideration as well. If I'm going to fault myself, I should maybe fault myself for not realizing it. But looking forward, that's the takeaway is that I don't know. I take it that Sanders is not a mathematical expert, and I take it that anybody on his team either doesn't know how to read the numbers or doesn't understand them. Um, I think Sanders should understand whatever he chooses to do from this point forward. And I know he said he wants to. He thinks it's important that the whole country gets to vote. I agree with him. Um, it's ridiculous to have the Democratic nominee determined by the Bible Belt. I said that at the beginning. It's absurd. But whatever he decides to do, he should realize that he's not fighting a fair fight. He's not fighting a fair fight. Okay. And we saw that the operatives, like I say, she screwed up in Ohio. She put too many ballots in. She screwed up there, and it really tipped it off. It doesn't make sense to think that he would win, or that she would win in Ohio by more than she won in North Carolina. If anything, she may have forgot to rig North Carolina as well, right? So I mean, this is a shoddy job, but what it demonstrates is that the party is willing to adjust to what it sees on the ground, and if it sees evidence of higher turnout, then it's going to stuff more ballots. It's not. I mean that's really the more serious takeaway from what happened on Wednesday or Tuesday, sorry, is that whatever. I mean, you might think that if he gets turnout up really big, the party bosses will look and they'll say, hey, look, we have to rig this to win it, etc. And they might, change their mind a little bit. They might look at polling results of, against the Republican candidates and all these sorts of things. That's not what they're doing. What they're doing is stuffing even more ballots to win even bigger. Okay. I think that they read the polls wrong here again. I think they were expecting to win by a more comfortable margin in Illinois due to the demographics. They thought they would have a harder time in Ohio due to the demographics. So they stuffed less in Illinois and more in Ohio, thinking that they would have to stuff more in Ohio to make up the difference. And you can see that, right? So this whole game that I'm playing of looking at polls and trying to figure out what they say and what it's being dramatically affected by the reality that this isn't a fair contest, right? So it's all the cognitive dissonance. Am I wasting my time? Of course I am. I knew the whole time I was wasting my time. But one of the things that Bernie's doing right now is he's leaving a data trail. And if he can put enough of a data trail out there to make it obvious enough, and enough people like me look at it and say, holy shit, this is obvious, maybe it will create enough disillusionment with the Democratic Party to break this two-party system up. And I've said this a few times as well, if Bernie has any goal in this cycle, in the face of what is obviously a rigged primary process, it should be to try to break the system up. Um, I'm not sure he agrees with me. He might disagree. But if he's seeing things the same way I am, even a little bit, that's what he should be putting in front of himself as a reasonable goal. I just want to add that I've done the same thing with Michigan results regarding Wayne County, which is another county that it has a notorious Democratic Party machine, a notorious corrupt Democratic Party machine. Statewide, it looks like Sanders won by about 18,000 votes. In Wayne County, Clinton won by almost 60,000 votes. In the rest of Michigan, Sanders won by about 77,000 votes. A little more than that. So, what I think happened was I think that she actually probably did rig the results in Wayne County by, about 50,000 votes or so. Thinking that that would be enough to hover with the check mark. But she got really overwhelmed in the rest of the state. You'll note that difference well, it seems like they got a little more out there. I don't know. I'm at this point right now. I just nearly started making things up. I stopped myself. But I mean, I'm not making things up. I'm looking at things and I'm analyzing them. But I was just starting to think, well, maybe, but I'm not going to do that, right? I'll do that in my mind, but not when I'm recording something. But I mean, you can see that it's the same basic issue. It's just that he happened to overwhelm her in Michigan. I'm not going to do this with the other counties. Like if you look, I pointed this out before. He won Miami by something like 70, or was it like 90,000 votes? I think it was, which is absurd, probably. But I mean, it wouldn't have mattered much, right? And again, she might have stuffed some ballots in Cleveland or something, but it just exaggerated it. I suspect that if you look at like some numbers in Kansas City or something, you'll see the same thing, right? Regarding Missouri, so maybe St. Louis. So this is what's happening. You can point at the Cook County part. That's the historical basis. And then you look at the Wayne County results, and they are suspicious, and you see this pattern develop, and you draw conclusions, right? I don't. I mean, this is an implicit, a deductive. I'm not going to use the word proof, but it's a demonstration that the results are funny, and that some investigation would be prudent if the Democratic Party wished to maintain its own legitimacy. I think the best that anyone could ever hope for is an internal investigation. They'll send, Debbie Wasserman Schultz out to do a. You get what I'm saying, right? What would an independent investigation be? Tell all the Republicans and take a look at it. Are they even going to give a fuck, right? So I mean, it's what I'm saying is like, my analysis of the numbers is that they are beyond suspicious, and that if they want to maintain their legitimacy, they should. I mean, I'm not suggesting it's an accident, right? So I mean, I'm struggling for a way to present this that's beyond the simple accusation, but perhaps that is escaping me for a good reason. It's obvious. Okay, so I'm now uploading yesterday's vlog, which is a positive. That means I'm finally caught up. As I mentioned a few times when I'm doing this, like I might be typing something, or there's a few points where I'm like ranting and waiting for something to go. But for the most part, like I've been editing, exporting, and uploading, and just doing that is time consuming enough, kind of thing. When the bigger ones go, like this is a bigger vlog. This is a 40-minute vlog. It's been like, okay, I do that and I'll go get something to eat, and by the time I get back, it's done, sort of thing, right? So, this is like it took literally a week. Yeah. Um, but it was in the end what, 1, 2, 3, a little more than 3 weeks worth of work. 1, 2, 3, yeah, so a little more than three weeks worth of vlogs. It took a week to get through, and it wasn't quite as time efficient as it could be. So that's three vlogs plus, on average it's 5 or 6 cuts a day. So, like I say, it was mostly just processing. I probably could have got it done a lot faster if I could have processed it faster. But anyways, I'm caught up. Next thing to do is going to be to wipe down this page here, and I should be able to keep it wiped down this time. As I've mentioned a few times, I think my primary run or primary analysis is over. It's a clear conclusion. The processes are rigged. It's not clear who knows what or why or what people's motives are at this point anymore. But the party has chosen their nominee, whether the people like it or not. And that's how it's going to be. If Sanders wants to create problems for the party, and that's that's the right language, right? Then we'll see how he goes about that. Don't get me wrong, I'm on his side. I am not on the side of the Democratic Party, but it's clear that they've picked their nominee, and it's going to be, as I pointed out in another comment, even if he can get massive levels of turnout up, it just seems like they're going to rig it more. The more people he gets out, the more ballots they'll stuff. So it's it doesn't seem like there's a discussion here or a potential to have a discourse or sway the debate. This is already decided, and it's the process of confirming the decision that was made at some point in the past. Probably at some point in, I don't want to say it's the distant past, because it's obviously not the distant past, but the not so recent past anyways. So yeah, wipe that down, and then I can get into the clearing off the stuff for the election cycle finally. Okay. I should finally get that started seriously before I crash in the morning. I mentioned I needed to do a compost run. The weather's not cooperating with me, so it looks like that probably won't be until either Tuesday morning or maybe even Wednesday morning. We'll see. I was thinking about doing it this morning, but it's not. It's the wind. It's not going to be that cold, but if I'm dealing with a -10 or -15 wind chill, then it's not so fun to walk for an hour in. But it will be in the next few days. So, in fact, even if I can even get this done and then do that, that might be ideal. So, I'm over the hump. This task is complete, and I'm moving forward. I would like to quote Donald Trump. Well, I think if I'm a few short and I have, 1,200, or if I have 1,100 and somebody else is at 3 or 4 or 500, which is very likely going to be the case. And if I'm a little bit short, and one of the reasons was we had so many candidates. I mean, we started off with 17 candidates, and it came down to, finally it's down to 3, frankly. But, there are so many candidates, so it's very hard to get over that number. It's very unfair in a way. But because of that fact, that there's so many candidates, and so many candidates are grabbing delegates, now here's what I say, because, and now they're out, and now they're out. So I think I will get over that number. I think I may get over that number fairly easily. Do we remember what Ted Cruz said the other day about Kasich? And what he's been saying for weeks about Rubio? Are you taking notes, Ted? Because Trump understands that, and you don't. Do you want this guy, Cruz? Do you want Cruz making tactical decisions? He can't even figure out a prisoner's dilemma. Okay? He'll be challenging Putin to an arm wrestling contest. No, Dmitry and Sergei need to stay home. This is mano a mano. And there's no 2 out of 3 bullshit either. Just one fight and winner gets Iran. This guy should not be running for president. He should be enrolling in a course in introductory game theory. And the link goes to a Dead Kennedy song, but we don't need that here for this particular point in time. This isn't, I don't need a math degree to figure this out. The fact that he can't figure it out is indicative of a lack of intelligence. And that's what he's expressing here over and over again. He wants this macho, let's take him on, I'll be tough. It's brawn over brains. That's what the Dead Kennedy song is about. Well, it's actually not what the Dead Kennedy song is about, but that's what I'm saying. This really reflects badly on Cruz's ability to analyze the situation. I know that all the focus is on Trump being scary, but the situation really, if you needed further demonstration, I mean, all of the circus around Trump is hiding the fact that we're used to dumb Republicans, and the fact that Cruz is one of the dumbest. He's the dumbest of the dumb. And everything that's come up so far is just really stressing the lack of reasoning abilities, and just how bad of an idea it is to let this guy be making decisions. That's really, I don't think we really need to analyze Trump any further, and there's so much information on Clinton, but the takeaway on this, everybody should drop out so that I can take, look at the polls, Ted. He'll destroy you. Why, again, I've been over this. It's rooted on this idea that people don't vote based on ideas. They vote based on what they're told to do, right? Which goes back to what I'm talking about with the polling as well. It's this idea that we don't really live in a democracy. We live in a system where the media creates voting patterns. And the entire campaign that he's running is based on the idea that the bank that if it came down to the bank guy versus the other guy, that the bank guy will be able to generate enough resources. Are you not watching the Democratic primary? Are you not paying attention? Are Republicans supposed to be more it's just on his behalf it indicates foolishness, and more than anything else what it indicates on what it says about Ted Cruz is it demonstrates that there's a lack of education. It really demonstrates that Ted Cruz is an uneducated person. That's what it really comes down to with that. Okay, I know that not everybody studies game theory, but that's what I'm saying is that you don't need, um, you don't need a lot of background here. It's just the basic introductory part of it. Um, Anybody who is an educated person should have been able to see that. It didn't require a math degree. It's quite obvious. Trump could figure it out, right? But what it says about the establishment is that his handlers um, are very much lost in a theory, um, and they're not seeing things as they are. That's the problem that the banks had this whole time. Okay, they keep thinking that they just they're testing the waters. They're seeing which one is the one that's going to get the biggest response, and then they're certain that as soon as they figure that out, that the advertising will and people will do what they're told, right? Again, they're not. That's what this election is about. This election is about people not doing what they're told. Um, so it's a broader systems collapse. It's not clear that they're going to figure it out before November, but remember, there is a plan F. Okay, so it does seem like I have now wiped down all of the election rambling off of the front of the page. There's going to be a few more things that are sitting there for a little bit until they come up. It's weird issues with character limits and stuff on your private videos have a smaller character limit than your public ones, so I can't paste it there before it's just yet another annoying YouTube quirk, right? It's just this long line of nonsense regarding that. But what that means is that this whole concept of what I was doing is coming to an end. The point of this was to stop doing that. The YouTube system, I noticed today that you don't even get notifications on replies anymore. Okay, they've completely broken it. So um, I'm not wasting my time, and I'm going to focus on other sorts of things. There will still be mini reacts, but it'll be just purely like in a verbal form. And I'll be waiting until my site comes up before I start posting any more writing. That said, YouTube was kind of while it was kind of a perfect tool for somebody like me to use as a marketing vector. I can only hope that I made the best use of it that I could while I could. It's broken now. I don't expect anything to come back to replace it. But I mean, I'm going to be using that platform a lot less because it's a lot less useful to me. It will no doubt mostly be related to musical comments and mostly outside of the mainstream. So if you're looking for my comments on YouTube in the future, it'll be almost entirely relegated to obscure music. So that's where to find me. And I'll make sure that the rest of my ranting is easy enough to find. But this is closing down the front page. I'm also closing down. I'm currently exporting splices from yesterday. Obviously, I'm not done yet well, I mean, I say yesterday, it's the first part of today's vlog. So that's what that is. Obviously, I can't finish it because the vlog's not done yet, but I can take those little parts out, and I do hope to have that finished before I go to bed. Meaning that when I wake up, this is all done, and I can move on to the next part. So, I guess I lost an extra day, but it means that I'm done, like until, presuming that this is a 2-day, and it does seem like it's going to be a 2-day vlog. That'll take me up to the 28th. So, vlogging about vlogging is over. I'll be back to archiving, and this will probably be the end of the vlog. So it's the end of that. Sorry, actually, one of the things I wanted to point out was that I'm done with the election stuff. Elections are interesting to me from multiple perspectives. I like the policy analysis, I like the data analysis, all these sorts of things. I think that I've comprehensively determined, in my own mind, if not in yours, that this is not a contestable nomination for the Democratic Party, that the party has in fact chosen their nominee, that it is not particularly interested in what it is that the voters have to say, and that the issue is not really up for debate. Again, it's not clear if Sanders realizes that, but I don't see any particular use in analyzing polls that I don't think are objective. I've pointed this out a few times. Does Hillary Clinton have the resources to commission a poll, have it put in a newspaper, and have it be bullshit, and have it get out? Sure. Will everybody at every stage of it know that it's bullshit? Yeah. And will anything be done to stop it? No, because it's the nature of a big corrupt political machine. That's how this works. Okay. The Republicans have their own network. Okay, and they do that like that. Okay. But that being said, I don't see the same kinds of inconsistencies on the Republican side, with the exception of a couple of polls that have put Cruz up. There was one released today within Utah. On the one hand, Utah is weird. Cruz could very well win Utah. On the other hand, this idea that Trump's got 10%. This goes back to what I'm saying. This is an attempt by the bank to define the narrative. Not we're going to listen to what you say, but we're going to do it. You're going to do what you say. You're going to do what we tell you, rather than we're going to do what you tell us, right? So that hasn't worked out for them so far. Not really any reason to think it'll work out for them again. But they may be taking the page from the Democratic side and saying, we've had enough of this. We're going to rig it from here. So I also have to put that caveat in, right? I'm telling you that I've concluded that the Democratic nominee is rigged, and that I'm saying, Cruz is an idiot for thinking that he can win. Well, if they rig it, then he might win, right? He might not have any real chance of winning in Connecticut, but a couple of 100,000 stuffed ballots, that's going to change the race, right? So, and if you do start seeing Cruz win, if you see Ted Cruz win in New York, or in Connecticut or Rhode Island, or even in Pennsylvania, there's some problems in the process. Short of somebody, filming, Trump at a KKK rally, there's not really a lot that's going to allow, Ted Cruz to win in these states. All right. So that might be what's happening there too. Who knows? I'm not really that interested. What I was interested in was whether or not Sanders could win. Sanders was a actually interesting candidate with some actually interesting proposals. Um, I think he might be winning in terms of the actual vote. Um, or, well, no, he wouldn't. There were too many southern states. He would not be actually flat out winning. I think he might have won Illinois. I think he might have won Massachusetts. And because it looks like she forgot to rig North Carolina. Like, I mean, and we can go state by state, right? He might have won Missouri. If you take these ballot boxes out, right? He probably lost Ohio anyways. But it doesn't seem worthwhile to me to follow, I'm sure I'll follow it, but it doesn't make sense to me to analyze what is um, appearing to me to be not a fair election. And look through my videos. I've made the case. So if you were following my analysis on my Google Plus page, that will be ending. There will not be any more there. I've actually cleared it off, and I'm making an effort to get it all off before I go to sleep. And it's just there won't be anything else there. Um, it's been shut down. So this is the end of that. Back to archiving full time tomorrow, and hopefully back to the music by the end of the month.